Are you tired of inaccurate or really faint tracing lines, or having to somehow pin and then mark out slowly your darts? Well, I have the solution for you. It is tracing paper that we're talking about today. Hi, I'm Christina, and I love to digitally apparel pattern, creating unique pieces of wearable art. And after I pattern those on the computer, I have to get them onto my fabric somehow. And my favorite way to do that is using tracing paper. These are very large, giant sheets, as you can kind of see how big they are. And they are super, super handy. You will use a tracing wheel to actually convert, or to actually put it onto your fabric. I'm going to show you how right now. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my tracing paper and unroll a piece, and I'm going to line it up with the edge of my table, tape down 2 corners, and I always like to give myself a weight on the other side so it doesn't roll back on me multiple times. I like to use tape because when you pull it up, you can just continue and leave the tape there, and it kind of helps protect those corners. Next, I'm going to just lay out a scrap of fabric I have going on here, and I'm going to use a sleeve from a show that I've done recently. I always like to kind of lay out my pattern a little bit beforehand, make sure it's going to fit nicely before I cover it up with tracing paper. Then I put tracing paper on top of my fabric and make sure everything's looking good, that my pattern isn't going to either run into either other patterns I'm going to be marking with or into the edge of the fabric and not be there. Then I'm going to make sure to pin down my paper pattern and the top layer of tracing paper. Then I'm going to get out my tracing wheel. That is this fun little thing. Now they come in many, many different types. This is just one of my favorites. It's just a basic spiky tracing wheel. And I'm going to trace out my pattern. I also really love to use a ruler. That helps keep all my straight lines really straight and not just slightly wobbly. And then in theater, I often will trace out my stitch line and my cut line, just because when I'm working with theater, I sometimes leave excess amount in my hems, excess amount in my side seams, so that my costumes can go in and out more easier. Then I'm going to go ahead and start cutting it up. Now, if I was actually doing this for a theater and I wanted to flatline, I could then just cut on the fold, and that would give me a line to match up. I could then lay that fabric right on top of another fabric, pin it on, and cut it out together, and it would already be flatlined together. So that's a very common theater trick to do. Then, once I actually have all of that cut out and done, it is time to put the tracing paper away. Before I put the tracing paper away, I always like to check to see if there's any rips or tears that need to be repaired. I always do this when I'm putting it away so that when I get it out the next time, it is ideally ready to use and ready to go. So I just use a little bit of Scotch tape on the back and repair any of those rips and tears that I find. This will help keep my paper nicer for longer and just keep the longevity of it stellar. So I always recommend doing that. And then I'm going to go ahead and roll it up, pull off the pieces of tape that I need to, and put them back all together and roll them right back together. Oh, one little piece got caught out. There we are. And that is how simple it can be to take your pattern and put it onto your fabric. Now, these do come in 5 different colors. It comes in the white, which is my favorite, the one that I use most often, even on white fabric at times, because then it won't show from a distance. Then it also comes in a red, a yellow, a dark blue, and a light blue. A little bit of warning, especially with those colors. If you're tracing around with the colors and you're touching your fabric and you're touching these tracing things, and then you start touching your face a little bit, you might become a little bit blue, red, or yellow, because I've definitely done that on multiple occasions. But I love how quick and easy I can translate my pattern onto my fabric with beautifully accuracy using the tracing paper and a tracing wheel. The main place that I get this tracing paper is from Richard the Thread. You can find a link down below and you can get some of these tracing papers for yourself. You can find them sometimes on Amazon, or you can find other knockoff type tracing papers, but they're always going to be smaller. They're not going to be as nice. These ones I have always found are the best, and I mean, that size, you cannot beat the size of these tracing papers. I would love to know what kind of tools you love to use when transferring your pattern notches and darts and all those fun things on your pattern onto your fabrics. Do you like to use chalk? Do you like to use wax? Do you like to use the friction pens, the water-based pens, pencils, pins? I've heard a lot of different things, and I would love to know. So please put in the chat down below what you actually like to use on and when you are marking your own patterns out. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe so you can continue seeing fun ways to digitally draft, as well as those tools you need after digital drafting to make those patterns come to life. I look forward to seeing you in some of my other videos. Happy patterning!